Hello, everyone, and welcome to This Week in Hospitality Marketing, show number 519. My name is Lauren Gray. Thank you so much for joining me. And for all of you that are joining us live around the world, thank you so much for tapping in, regardless of the time zone. Always impressed by that. Thank you. Out of the 209 countries that our TV channel runs out to, it is a joy to see so many people globally see us live, in addition to the recasting that we do on Wednesdays, 11:30 a.m., both in Sydney, Australian time for APAC, and 11:30 a.m. London time for our EU and Mideast friends on both on Wednesdays. So with that, jumping into today's topic, a little bit of like what you're doing right now, what you're seeing right now. This is more a video component of it. Of course, we have our podcast, but audio. And it's changing. It has changed in lots of ways as to what we did. And so my topic today, jump right into it, is the old/new use of audio for marketing. Now, for those of you who have kept up with me these 10 years that we do the show every week, you know that my history includes having worked in radio in my very youthful days, back when it was still a thing that was quite big and popular, and one of the very few mediums that was so dominant at a time. But this was in the late 70s that I was in radio, and as a kid, and top 40 stations and all that stuff. And worked in AM, I worked in FM, pretty much all throughout Florida in one capacity or another. Even ran and operated radio stations in my youthful age, one of the youngest to do so. Feeling good about those memories. But anyways, audio was very powerful back then. Radio was a very powerful medium. It was one of the more affordable mediums to get into for large scale audiences back when there was no internet. TV was just an unattainable. I mean, you had three channels: NBC, ABC, and CBS. A couple of UHF, maybe if you're lucky. Not many people watch them. And it was always national campaigns. There was no alternative for TV. You either advertised nationally on them and spent a tremendous amount of money to do so, or that was it. That was the only choices for TV. For radio, was a good chance to localize your advertising, but you still were, it was a cost because you were blanketing to tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people, depending on which market you were in. Now, as time advanced on, radio stations lost that cloud of monopoly for being able to reach those audiences of the sizes the internet kicked in, obviously, as we all know. And even for a while, and it was a wonderful little golden age early on in the early 2000s, where you were able to buy remnant audio ads on radio stations. Did that through Google when they were exploring the world of getting into traditional media outlets, but doing it through a digital means, where they basically make audio ads in Google, and it would be running on radio stations in Boston and New York or wherever else I was targeting it. And it was amazing. Now, since then, we have grown up a lot. Music that we listen to, things that we listen to, podcasts that we listen to. Back in the day, radio in its golden era, back in the 1930s, 40s, and so forth, and 20s, was the medium at the time when TV didn't exist. And because of that, you had all of the things that we now see in podcasts, true crime podcasts and so forth. And of course, commentaries and contents. And we see the powerful influences that podcasts have had on even the politics in the domestic United States. Podcasts have turned into a very convenient, consistent medium of engagement. And this is one of the beauties of audio. And that is, it doesn't have to have the sole focal point of the listener to still be enjoyed. Whether you're listening to music while you're doing something else, working out, walking, driving, whatever, you can do that. Podcasts can do that, where if you're working out, walking, driving, you can listen to podcasts. And it allows you to get engaged with it. As the old saying goes, the audio is in your head. It's a very personal experience to have a podcast. We found this we've been doing our podcast now for over 18 years, 19 years, actually. Whew. And audio has always been that personalization, that ability to be in a pair of a person's earbud or speakers and talk to them as if they were the only audience, because in their world they are, and they listen to you. Audiobooks have and a twist to that too. But audio radio stations even have gone digital. We have a digital radio station, Hospitality Radio. It's in 39 countries, and it's a digital radio station, meaning I don't have a very large tower putting out wattage and amperage to broadcast over a distance that the radio frequencies would run. Back in the day, I used to have a license to have to do that when I was working at a radio station. I had class 3, there was class 1s, class twos. Class ones were the engineer of the radio stations. I know I'm probably talking to people that are like, what? Lauren, you're tangenting. It's true. The reality of it is that radio has changed into what its context of what radio means. There's a lot of digital radio. There's satellite radio. For anybody's had Sirius XM radio. There was AM, FM, and now XM. There's digital. These are all mediums of broadcast. And I find it amazing when you're doing road trips and travel. We're really faced with two options when it comes to listening to stuff: what we carry with us and what we have access to in our own libraries, digital as it is. Remember the old MP3 players and being nostalgic. The Sony Walkmans with tape decks and so forth. Well, now that's grown up, and when we travel, we can play our own music, our own playlists, and so forth on Spotify and Apple Music and Pandora and places like that. iHeartRadio, big ones like that. You can play your music, or you can play their music that they have based on genre and interest and so forth. And then you also have radio stations that you can listen to. Now, the interesting part of that is that you're getting it over your internet connection or your cellular connection as you're driving, but you're listening to radio stations as you do this. And the unique ability now of advertisement on digital radio stations is the geo-targeting capability. And I say this in a direct reference. When I was traveling, the last time I was traveling from Texas to Florida, I was listening to digital radio as we were coming over. And all of the ads as I was listening were of the areas that I was in the area of. The retails, the restaurants, whoever was advertising was because it was a nearby business as I drove through. Just as you would a radio station, as you listened to it, you would hear the ads of the businesses that wanted to pay to broadcast to the area that they run a business in. I have my shop in this town or this county or whatever, and I want my audio advertisement to be to those people that are nearby. Advertising about an auto repair place in Portland, Oregon to a person in Orlando, Florida is irrelevant because there's no usage value to that. I'm not going to go up to Portland to get my car fixed if I lived in Orlando. So this digital omni-net presence is not really valuable as it is the geolocation of the audio ads. And that's what these platforms allow you to do. Now, all of the platforms have their own medium of advertising on. You can join to iHeartRadio and get into their advertising, create an advertising account with iHeartRadio. And then you have other services that will go over and create a aggregate of your advertising capability. Places like AudioGo and places similar to that. I don't want to rattle off a bunch. We do it in the podcast. And we'll have more about the podcast today. We'll talk more about the specific tools that we used over time. Some platforms like Sirius still require you to work with them directly. They don't have aggregate sites, although they do have enterprise accounts that allow some diversity. But the ability now to segment out the audiences that you're targeting is very powerful. Now, how does this relate to our conversation about audio marketing now for hospitality and hotels and so forth? One of the drug returns of a saying is like, oh, well, why would I advertise my hotel to the market that my hotel's in? Not most of the people are going to want to stay at our hotel since they already live in the area. Yes to that. And also we know that there's a lot of Smurf business that comes from family visits and things that are going on that people need a hotel to have people stay at, family that's visiting, friends that are visiting, reunions that are planning things, and you want to know about what the hotels are doing. So there is a local market, okay, a staycation market, so to speak, with that engagement. That's one thing. But more importantly, the ability to decide which geographies you're wanting to advertise goes to the discussion of your feeder markets. What markets are you generating business from at the time of year that you would like to advertise, and putting your advertisement in these mediums. Now, when I say mediums, and I've been rattling about radio stations, it really is much broader than a radio station conversation as to dropping in ads into radio stations that are going to play in other markets. It's also about the podcasts that you can advertise in. There is the ability to have channel abilities of advertising audio in that go beyond just the radio stations and the podcast, but sometimes it's just the engagement of what's called DOE or digital out of home advertising based on geo-targeting. A lot of these things you have the capabilities of doing, obviously, geolocations, demographic choices as to ages and music genres. That's another thing, is selecting, if you're doing music and radio, that you're advertising during certain song segments or certain songs play up. They allow you to advertise around it. Your device types, whether you're doing it for your mobile phones or your tablets, PCs, laptops, even smart speakers, the things that really just control the audio, but it has its own software that you're able to control it. It can connect to radio stations or audio profiles that will allow it to play. You can do things like create predictive audiences, where the predictive marketing that we're all familiar with as to what the intent and purpose of their interest is. You can harbor around the audio ads in relationship to the types of audiences that are related to travel interest, types of travel interest, destination interest, event driven, those types of things. Okay, not demographics of age and gender and so forth, but interest and categorizations. The day and time capability of it, the behavior of people, drive markets, fly markets, people are passing through markets between point A and C, and you're the B. The behavior of traveling through and catching people saying, "Hey, you stay at the hotel, off the road, whatever." Again, we talk about content types, language variations, being able to target types of languages for people. If you wanted to speak to more of an ethnic group with a particular language interest, you can tailor your advertisement around that. The variations of the types of ads are extensive. You can do pre, mid, post roll. You could do segue. You could do segment. There's variations to all of this, but the idea of it is that it's a live and thriving aspect of advertisement to be able to identify the very audiences that you're wanting to do. Now, that's the bulk of the old new of audio marketing, audio for marketing, is the knowledge that you can do these things at that level for those things. And that kind of is I wouldn't say Captain Obvious statement, but it is certainly one of the more fundamental ways of understanding audio ads. It's like, oh yeah, I can do audio ads for radio stations, digital radio stations. I can do audio ads for podcasts. It's an understood quantity. And yes, you may not be completely familiar with all the variations of how to structure the targeting of your ads, but that's an easy learnable skill to that. I want to broaden up a little bit more on what's really happening with audio ads now that wasn't really an option before. And I say that even from being from the world that whenever I did audio ads, I made my own audio ads. I felt very good that I had the history and the skill and the voice to make my own audio ads. Not everyone feels that way and that comfortable. And that was an obstacle for a lot of people doing audio ads, that in order to really have a good audio ad for whatever they were planning on doing with it, they had to go hire the talent or have the talent made or make it. And, there was platforms that pop out there, but, Fiverr was one of those ones you could find a person that would do an audio ad for you and pay so much money for them to do it and so forth. But you had to go back and forth whether you liked the final version of it. And then you had to go off, and now you had the audio. You had to go and find either somebody to make the ad with the audio that you got, or you had to go over and make it yourself. And that required writing the script that they used to read. And that also required then the post editing to use the audio with what you were doing and to size it down to the size that you were paying for. Now we have such amazing platforms like 11 Labs that you can literally choose the voice that you want with AI and say, I want this voice. And whatever you type, it'll say. And it got better and better and better and better and better. First, it would type it, and it really sounded very autonomous. And we all could tell the robotic voice recording. You never heard it breathe. It seemed to say too many words without taking a breath, which was unnatural. The intonations at the end and the beginning of words weren't natural. It seemed very word for word for word for word for word for word for word, and it was not as comfortable sounding. And so it was a deterrent for people saying, no, I don't want to do a fake ad. I don't want to have an audio bot sound to it. That's not very authentic. Now you can create any authenticity you want and in any language that you want. So making audio ads is as simple as knowing what you want to say. And now with AI, knowing what to say, you literally frame the prompt into the world of, as a radio ad that's promoting such and such, this is what I want you to, come up with a script for, and then it comes up with it, and usually it'll tie it to an audio generation platform anyway. If you start looking for alternate long language models, it'll have other, or generative models, it'll have other ways of going over and telling you how to make the ad for yourself. And you still have to go at that point, still have to come to the mechanical. Do you put sounds behind it? Do you put multiple voices into it? Those kind of things. But you still have more tools to do that with. And there are even now tools that will literally make the ad for you. This is what I want the ad to be about. This is what I want them to do about the ad. And I want it to be this type of voice, and I want it to be this long. And boom, it'll write it, it'll record it, and it'll present it for you. Just like video ads, they'll do the same thing for you as well. And now you have a really good audio ad with very little barrier of entry for it, because you literally have told it what you want and had it do what you asked it to do, that you got happy with it. Now it's just taking this ad and putting it into the platforms that you want to have used it for distribution. And that opens up the whole world of the iHeartRadios, the Pandoras, the Amazon Musics, the Apple Musics, the ability to advertise on all these platforms. And it goes far beyond just the platforms that we're most familiar with. There's a lot of secondary platforms out there that get in front of places. And there's a lot of radio stations that also will take the BitLyric advertisement parts into it as well, that are all targeted to what you want them to be. I want to go to these radio stations in this market. Why? Because that market is a feeder market for this time of year for people to come down. Or, hey, I want a blanket roadmap geofence around my area, so as people enter into my space, I want them to be aware of my hotel or my restaurant or my spa or my golf course, whatever it is that you're selling, for them to know that this is where they want to pull off and do. It's also a very powerful localized tool. People will and do listen to music, and a lot of people will and do listen to free music. And for that reason, they do and are willing to listen to the ads that get interjected in to have that free music. So for that reason, those ads work. There's a greater retention to the audio ads. There's a greater interaction with that from a localized point of view. There's high value to audio ads. Again, the barrier to doing it for yourself now is more like a line that you step over. It's just really wanting to do audio ads and defining their value to it, and then knowing that it's an easy step across. As a matter of fact, a lot of the platforms now offer the very service tools I'm talking about with using AI generative technology in their systems. If you don't have an ad, they will help you AI generate your own ad. You just have to define what the ad is about and for. And it'll find sound effects. It'll find all those things that make it such a good ad. It's really very impressive how they've skilled out their AIs to do that. Some of the other things that are just for fun and things to do with it is, and this is a little bit more on the venturing on the edge of what you perceive as audio, audio guides. The revolution of tour and travel right now as guides and so forth has really blown up. And we as hoteliers are, I wouldn't say that they're just saying that we're lazy, but we tend to not look at the things that aren't in our lobby. And what I mean by that is, as much as we want to be helpful to our guests as to what's there to do in our area, what's nearby the hotel to enjoy, what restaurants do we recommend, here's some distance ranges or things that you should not miss when you're with us, it's really perfunctory to help sell the idea of staying at our hotel. That's really the value proposition as a filter that we're applying to our content generation. And we've talked about it many, many times before, that is just the gateway of wanting to expand more your relationship with the guest and the value proposition that you offer them to do this. And guides are a huge thing. For me, they're a massive thing to help, because I don't care, wherever I have, in my mind, thoroughly researched where I'm going, where I'm staying, it never fails that the reality of being there, and this is including me putting on my VR headset and geeking out and going to Wanderer app and so forth, and walking down the street in front of the hotel and around the block, and if there's pictures inside the hotel, going and seeing those pictures in 360 as if I was standing in the lobby, all the things I tell you about doing as a geek when it comes to this kind of research for stuff. And even with all of that, I will still tell you that it feels different to be in a place I've never been compared to all of the research I had of what it's like to be there. It does help in the familiarity. Like, oh yeah, Hey, yeah, that's that store I saw, or hey, that's not different. That's different than the picture I saw, and that's changed since the picture was posted that I looked at, or what have you. Those things do happen, but guides are incredibly helpful because it allows you orientation. For anybody that's traveled internationally to a tourist destination city or so forth, one of the first things you hear a lot of people talk about is the fact that they'll go take a tour bus ride, the hop on, hop off buses. And it's not so much that they rely solely to see what the touristy places they should see. It gives a orientation perspective of where you are in relation to all the things that were interested in doing in the city, and how far away they are and so forth, and how easy or not easy it is to get to them for your travel that's there. And I say that of the tours and the travel things too. Nobody wants to miss the proverbial biggest ball of twine next door that was there that they didn't know about until after they left and discovered it later, and that frustration comes through. You want them to know about the really good dining that's next to the hotel, your really good dining for that matter, the things that, the cool bars that you can go to, or the places that are scenic, or the how to's to get to a certain place. And the one thing about audio ads that is truly unique compared to all other mediums of engagement is that it can be done simultaneously with something else. So picture, if you would, the idea that somebody comes into your hotel resort, destination resort, let's put it for that, and you give them a simple means, whether it's there at the front desk or whether it's something that you gave them as a pre-arrival, that they could scan and have their earbud in, and it gives an orientation. It's like, hi, welcome to the XYZ resort. You're in our lobby at this point. If you take a look real quick in the center part of the lobby, there's this fountain feature such and such. This is the inspiration behind it, da da da. If you want to know more about it, you can do it in an action call to action. If not, then be like, now, if you look farther over to your right from the front desk, you'll see our elevators, da da da. Our fitness center is right behind them. It's open such and such. That subtlety while they're lugging their luggage over to the elevator, and things like that, where you can help guide them. It's like maybe a guide when you step out the door. It's like, oh, you're out our front door. If you look over to your right, down the block a ways, you'll see a couple of blinky lights. That's the such and such restaurant that we were talking about that has great XYZ food. Those kind of things. It sounds like, wow, would anybody do this? Yes, there would be people that do this until they got comfortable enough that they didn't need the information or just the helpful hand of it. Because as we know, the reality is we don't have all the warm bodies in the world. You think about the old Four Seasons mentality, the ratio of staff to guests. And that was an untenable thing for most hotels that were trying to operate at a different profitability and charged at a different rate on an evening. They didn't have the ability to have that many warm bodies. Here, you're augmenting your warm bodies with audio guides. Now, this is a very simple version to something we talked about a few weeks ago with AI guides that can be interactive and talkative, where you can actually ask questions and come back and forth. And that would be an enhancement to what I'm talking about, where you can do an audio guide that's interactive with an AI. The AI is, you're in the bud, you hit the button, and you can actually ask questions like, okay, so what was that Korean restaurant that you told me about? Oh, okay, directions are right to your left. Continue. That's an AI engagement, but it's through an audio medium. If you begin to think through how you can create an audio medium of communication, now this person can do more than just stare at the screen that you told them to, or augmented reality, or a video of anything. You don't have to have that level of dedication that's the only thing they can do. Audio is something that can be in the background. So audio can be something that you can use for perennial engagement. The AI audio, in that sense, is going to be, I think, profoundly impactful for people. Think of other things, and this is a burgeoning aspect of this. When people come to your restaurant, and think traditionally, and again, going back to my history of having owned and run restaurants and come up through food and beverage and hotels and so forth, there's always the lag effort. If you have a hostess, don't have a hostess. Either which way, a clock starts as soon as you get seated at a table or you sit at a table. How soon am I meet and greeted? Okay. And you try to train your staff to be mindful of everyone, but you have your rushes and your pushes and you get oversat. And the server just can't get to the table at the time that they know they should have gotten to the table because they're backlogged with what else they're doing with other tables. And that creates a slow start to the table that you can recover from. Hey guys, sorry, you see we're jamming. I'm focused for you, and they can start the process. Wonder if, for an efficiency value, because we've seen several different ways that restaurants run. We've seen the front and back scenario where there's always somebody out front taking orders, sometimes facilitating the delivery of drinks and so forth. But then they have food runners back of the house that's pulling out the food. They come out to the table, bring it down to you. Hopefully they don't auction it off like who gets the burger, but they know how the seating chart works and they know where the orders were taking in more progression, so they know where to drop it. And so you have a front and back relationship. Sometimes you just have a front relationship, which is the person facilitates everything. Not only are they order taking, but they're also order delivering. And that's more of a traditional full service engagement that usually goes on with that. But we also have overwhelming where we have a large amounts of seats. They were understaffed to begin with, and they got overwhelmed with a demand that they didn't have the scheduling for. And now you have a scenario where you have people that are really pissed off. And of course, even getting the initial order in is challenging, let alone the refills and the follow-ups and the quality checks that normally go on with a good service experience at a table. Why do I bring all this up? Because you can augment this a lot with how you engage at the tables. Now, good or bad, whether you like or dislike, having the QR codes at the table where you can do your own ordering creates a value of efficiency depending upon the meal you're at. Obviously, if you're looking for a comfortable sit-down dining experience, that's probably not what you're wanting to do, the self-ordering. If you're there because it's lunch or you just want to grab a quick bite, or it's more of a bar food-esque kind of thing, and you just really want to get your drinks and get your food, and you're not looking for that high level of touch engagement with the server, then automated self-ordering is a viable solution to the volume of what's going on. And you have versions of it now that exist where you can, if the hostess seats you, then you can begin your order process. And now the server is really the facilitator of already what you're doing. Like, I've ordered my drinks, I've ordered my food. A lot of people are like, I don't know. And this is where the navigation on their phone gets a little squonky, where maybe they don't feel as comfortable picking what they're wanting and they're indecisive, and they end up just wanting a server to, ask questions about. That's always going to happen. But what about talking? What about like you would to a server? And AI has gotten really good at that. As a matter of fact, we beta's one that's, anyways. But it's what's fun is to think that you can come to the table, identify yourself at that table, scan the QR code so it pulls up the fact that you're at that table, and now you're like almost talking on the phone or dialoguing with it. It's like, but it's like, hey, how can I do it? Great to have you here with us. Maybe, your restaurant leaves menus at the table. Maybe they're digital menus, but let's just say the menus are left at the table because you want to have the audio usage of it. And you can go over and say, yeah, I'd like to get a beer. What do you have on draft? The thing can tell you what it has on draft. Or if you already know you have on draft, it's like, I want a Bud Light. Okay, great. Do you want the 16 ounce or 22 ounce, whatever, and you literally tell it, and it's tallying it. It's showing you on the screen what you're putting in. So you can go, oh, no, I don't want that. I want the 22. Oh, okay. And it can do that. And then when you feel like you put your initial order in, you say, that's it for now. Okay, we'll get those orders, that drink out to you as soon as possible. The machine prints out the chit at the bar for it to make, or on the screen for it to be made for the table I'm at. And now you have a support system that is bringing out the drinks. Like, hi, great to see you guys here. I see that we have these. Who has the 20 ounce Bud Light, whatever. And it starts. And at that point, it can be taken over by a real life person, but you've short gapped the delay that usually gets people pissed off at the beginning of, can I get my initial ordering? Can I get a drink? I'll be willing to wait an extra minute to order food, whatever. You at least got past that point. The other might be that once you get the drinks and they're delivered out, that you just continue the process and say, hey, I've decided what I want for dinner. Oh, that's great. What would you like? Well, I want this, this, and this. Well, it comes with such and such and such and such. Oh, I want all that, but hold the onions or whatever it is. And it keeps track of what you're doing, and it shows you what you're ordering on it. And if it looks good, then say, yeah, that's my order. And it already knows you're at whatever table it is and what have you. And now all of a sudden, same thing. Goes into the kitchen, order gets put up, it starts getting done. You're not waiting to get the eye contact of the server or the attention of anybody. You're able to facilitate your own timing, but you're talking to it. That's the beauty of what we're into now with the technology we have, with the AI that we have. It's not about the call center doldrums of, you say a word and, it says, pick from the following 5 on our menu. And you're like, 1, you have to hit a button. Okay, I want a burger, which is number 1, but it's not, oh, wait, that's cheeseburger. Number 2, how do I go backwards? Blah, 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 blah. It's none of that anymore. It's talkative, it's interactive, and you can engage it and talk through like you would with a server. And if you, at any point you just don't want to deal with it, you just say, hey, look, I need to talk to a server. And it lets the system know that your table requires assistance. It's like a little blinky like button kind of thing that you wish every table had. That's the value of audio engagement from that perspective. So audio is beginning to get more and more valuable in a variety of ways as we get more and more comfortable with the automation that creates a more interactive audio experience. You can make your own audio ads. You can put them on your own audio channels, radio stations, podcasts, in any market that you want to, in any language that you want, with any accent of voice that you want, with any offer that you want, with any call to action that you want, without the barriers of having to hire talent and create the audio, approve it, get it sent over, and pay for large contracts that use like they were in the old days. You get to do as much as or as little as you want on the platforms and have an easier barrier of entry to make the ads that you want. You can also use audio in a variety of interactive ways with your guests. That's more of a comfortable medium for people to engage with you on, whether it's an AI agent, whether it's just direct audio that's a recorded, now that you're here, let's tell you a little bit about what not to miss kind of thing. Do that, where they're not having to watch a TV to do it or their phone to do it. You're just talking to them. They're wheeling their suitcases over to the elevator with an earbud in, listening to the audio introduction of your hotel. Simple thing. Not everybody uses it, but those that do appreciate it. Who knows? It's not an all the person solution. It's a some of the people solution that adds to the value that they experienced. That's the beauty of the technologies, is that it isn't a put it in everybody's way. It's put it available to those that are interested in using it. That's the decisions you have to make with these type of things. And then when it comes to audio engagements for, like we just discussed, restaurant examples or what have you, then so be it. For those that want to use it, it's there to be used. For those that don't want it, it's not to be used, and it gets gapped in. But that alleviates some of the pressure, hopefully enough that it allows more resource utilization of the team and the staff that you do have. There's just variations to think about in this entire process. So with that, I think we covered my ideas over the old and new use of audio for marketing. If you have any questions, feedback, examples that you'd like to share, what have you, you can always reach me at lauren@hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com. Or if you, by audio, want to go over and answer a question and or raise anything that concerns and questions you have to me, you can reach me at hdm.news/talkback. And I have an audio engagement that you can do that and answer things from it. And I will get them to it, and you tell me whether I can use your name or not, and permissions and what have you. So for all of that, that's another option for it. For everyone that watches us on the simulcast on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, thank you so much. Thank you for all the associations and corporate relationships that we have that simulcast our show on their Facebook pages. A sincere appreciation for everyone that does that. Reaches tens of thousands of people for doing all of that. If you're watching us on Twitch, between the gaming stuff, maybe, I don't know. Thank you for using Twitch for that. And of course, on our TV channel, the Hospitality Marketing Channel, which you can catch on all of your smart TVs, your Amazon TV, your Google TV, Apple TV, Samsungs, Rokus. We're on all of them. Just look for the Hospitality Channel, add it, and you can always get the show for free. And then there's a pay gateway if you want to go like Netflix, where you go back and you can see all these other points of contact, from products to services to what have you. If you're into radio, we do have the Hospitality Radio Station at hospitalityradio.com. We have scheduled linear programming for sales and marketing and operations and in revenue management and MetaSearch. They're all on scheduled programs, a variety of contributors that do a great job, all audio, on our radio station with jingles. Remember that we can do jingles now, and your own jingles like radio stations. Which is a lot of fun for Segway stuff and things like that. We have ads on them as well for some of that. So catch on that. And if you want to play any of our shows for the past 10 years, now 11 years, that we've been doing this every week, you can go to hospitalitychannel.tv, and you can either do it by data broadcast, co-author, co-hosts, and or topic. You can search for all of our TV shows or radio station or podcasts as well. All of it's there. So with that, my name is Lauren Gray. I thank you for the privilege of your time, and look forward to talking to you all next week.